Hi, everybody, and welcome to Love Fraud Live. So, why is it that sociopaths frequently get away with cheating, abuse, fraud, theft, and other nefarious activities? Even murder. I'm Donna Anderson, author of LoveFraud.com, and tonight I'm going to explain 10 reasons why sociopaths get away with their bad behavior. This is a live streaming show, and I'll answer your questions at the end of my short presentation. So please send them to me as we go along. And if you like this video, please be sure to click the like button and also subscribe so you'll be notified about my future videos. Okay, recently, a Love Fraud Live viewer asked me to explain how sociopaths get away with so much of their abusive behavior. That's what I'm going to address tonight. Here are 10 strategies that these exploiters use to escape accountability. Number 1, sociopaths lie fluently and convincingly. They tell big lies, little lies, stupid lies. They lie while looking you right in the eye without a trace of anxiety or guilt. And if they're caught in a lie, they easily lie again to cover up the first lie. It's no wonder they're believed. Number 2, sociopaths protest with righteous indignation if you accuse them of bad behavior. If you even ask them a polite question about an inconsistency, they erupt. They would never do such a thing. How can you possibly accuse them of that behavior? Soon, everyone doubts you, and you even begin to doubt yourself. Number 3, sociopaths smear their accusers and their targets. If that's you, they ruin your credibility, often starting long before you even realize that they've exploited you. When you finally start to figure out what's been going on, confront the sociopath, and everything blows up, you have no support. The sociopath has already turned everyone you know against you. Number 4, sociopaths become whatever will serve their agenda. Remember, these people are chameleons. They change their presentation and their behavior depending on the situation. So, should they express remorse, pull rank, plead ignorance, portray the bumbling fool? They'll do whatever enables them to escape consequences. Number 5, sociopaths plan many moves in advance. They always have an agenda, which of course you know nothing about. To implement their plan, they plot and scheme, lining up allies, fall guys, minions, bank accounts, transfers, even replacement romantic partners. Then they make their move. Number 6, sociopaths grab targets of opportunity. Sometimes sociopaths don't have a plan. They're simply ready to pounce whenever an opportunity arises. They are always on the lookout for someone who is useful to their agenda. If you have something that they want, they figure out where you are vulnerable and use it against you so they can take what they want. Number 7, sociopaths know how to go right up to the line without crossing it. They are experts at operating in the gray area. They often engage in behavior that is immoral and unethical, but not illegal. Or they create situations that are he said, she said, with no proof of anything. So after they've victimized you, if you want to take legal action or file some kind of complaint against them, there's nothing to prosecute. Number 8, sociopaths size up and flatter whomever they need to convince. Who do they have to manipulate in order to escape penalties for what they've done? Is it a boss, a police officer, a therapist, a judge? They align themselves with that person, pretend to be on the same team, and turn an adversary into an ally. Number 9, sociopaths have the dirt on whoever is passing judgment. Everybody has flaws and vulnerabilities, and they are expert at finding them. They put adversaries, work superiors, and legal authorities in compromising positions, and then engage in blackmail. Suddenly, the case is dropped. Number 10, sociopaths expect to get away with their actions. All their lives, they've been exploiting and abusing people and getting away with it. Practice makes perfect, and by the time you run across them, they are accomplished connivers. Sociopaths believe they can talk themselves out of anything or divert attention to somebody else. They've succeeded before, and unfortunately, they'll often succeed again. So, those are 10 reasons why sociopaths get away with lots of bad behavior. Okay, sometimes they do face consequences for their actions. After all, experts say that about 25% of people in prison are sociopaths. But even those who are locked up probably got away with lots of bad behavior and even crimes before they were finally put behind bars. So never, ever, ever underestimate a sociopath. Anyway, as a reminder, my audiobook, Love Fraud, is now available, and if you like audiobooks, it's quite the story. There's more information in the description below. So let's see what kind of questions we have. I see there's a lot of chat today, so let's see what we got. Snowflake says, they omit the truth and they hate direct questions. Yeah, I would say that they certainly omit the truth. I mean, that's one of the things that I noticed, especially in dealing with my sociopathic ex-husband, is that he left out a lot. Like, when I first met him, which I talked about a couple weeks ago in the program, he told me that he was a widower, but he didn't tell me that that wife was his third wife, and I gradually found out that he had been married 3 times, and then I gradually found out that instead of his previous wife being dead for 4 months, she was dead for like a week before when he posted his online ads. So yeah, he left out lots of stuff. And the other thing that they do with these lies that makes it so difficult is that they mix lies with the truth in a way that it's very hard to tell what's true and what's not, because you know that some of what he's saying is true, and they know that you know that some of what they're saying is true. So because of that, you tend to assume that the rest of what he's saying is true, or they're saying is true. It's a very effective technique, where they mix the truth with the lies, and consequently, you end up believing the whole story when big pieces of it are not true. Okay. Yeah, Michelle says she's amazed at the lies, and some lies don't even matter. And this is true. Sociopaths essentially are looking for power and control. And one of the ways that they get this satisfaction from power and control is through lying. Because if they know that they've convinced you of something that isn't true, it's like a rush for them. It's called the duping delight, and they actually get a charge out of it. So for that reason, yeah, I mean, they'll lie about things that don't matter at all, and there's absolutely no reason for them to lie about it, just essentially to keep in practice. Okay. All right, so Snowflake says, what cliche should we use to get rid of one safely? You know, a lot of that certainly depends on what is the status of your involvement. If you're talking about romantic relationships and it hasn't gotten that far along, there's two ways to go. One way is the direct way, and that is essentially to tell the person that it's over. In fact, usually when you realize that you're involved with a sociopath, that's what you want to do. You want to make it very clear that you want nothing to do with this person. And so the way you do that is you say something to the effect of, I don't want to have any involvement with you. Please don't call me ever again. But what happens next is what's most important. From that point on, you have no contact with this individual. You do not talk to them. You do not look at their Facebook page. You do not open any text messages. You block them. Because if you give them any leeway at all, they'll take advantage of you, because that's what they do. So that's one thing that you want to do. In fact, I learned about this strategy in a book called The Gift of Fear, which was written by Gavin de Becker. It's a fabulous book. I recommend that everybody read it. He doesn't actually talk so much about sociopaths. It's more about using your intuition as far as knowing when you're in a situation that could be dangerous. And of course, sociopaths are predators, and your intuition is the best tool you have to protect yourself. But anyway, that's where that strategy comes from. So that's the direct approach. It's pretty good to use this early on if you're not too involved with this person. If you're in a situation where this person knows a lot about you, knows other important things about you, maybe has had access to your electronics or things like that, some people use the gray rock method. And what that means is that you make yourself boring. You essentially have nothing to say, nothing to do, don't respond to anything, and just kind of make it so that there's no reason for this person to be around anymore, and hopefully they just fade away and ghost you. And when they do that, this is great because you've accomplished your objective. So there's two basic approaches. And of course, this is assuming that we're not talking about someone you're married to, you got kids, you got finances. That's another whole ball game. But if we're just talking about a somewhat preliminary dating relationship, those are the approaches that you can take. Okay. All right, here's a question. How do you convince a 72-year-old widow, loving mom, with a 43-year-old spath son that he will never change? 28-year cycle is gamble, drink, leave girlfriend, come home to mom, come money, return cycle, getting more aggressive. Oh boy. Yeah, that's really hard. I would say that probably what you need to do is work on educating. I guess this is your mom, or whoever this woman is, educating them about sociopaths. Well, first of all, you need to educate yourself about sociopaths so you can do this effectively. It often makes a big difference when people understand that there is something medically wrong. I mean, this is a personality disorder. This person is not going to change. But when they realize that it's a medical disorder, that this is causing this, that often helps. Sometimes if you just think that, well, the son is having a bad time and he's my son, I can't let him go. I mean, that's difficult, but if you could try and convince the person that it is, there's something medically, that there is no help for this. There's something, a deep down difference. The other thing might be to try and figure out where the son acquired the disorder. Now, keep in mind that this disorder is usually highly genetic. So does that mean her husband was disordered? Or is there somebody else further back on the family tree that exhibits these symptoms? That might help to recognize that it's a genetic thing. It had nothing to do with her parenting. I mean, maybe she's feeling some guilt. But sometimes the genetics of these situations are so strong that no amount of parenting will ever help the person. So, I mean, maybe there's a little bit of guilt that she's feeling. Maybe she thought that she did something wrong, and consequently feels like she needs to, continue to support. But perhaps explaining that it's genetic, and in many cases, you could have a person like this have the best parenting in the world, and they still turn out bad. I mean, there's many cases where nothing can be done. Especially if this person is 48 years old or 43 years old. I mean, it's only been in the last maybe 20 years that people have been aware of what really goes on with sociopaths and psychopaths. So when she was raising this boy, there was no information available. I mean, she couldn't have learned anything because it wasn't available. So maybe those approaches will help you. Okay. All right. So Michelle asks, mine is older. What do you see happens as they age? He is 60 and is finally caught and going to prison. Well, funny you should ask. I'm in the process now of writing my next book, which is called Senior Sociopaths. And I did lots of research on this. I did a survey. I have like 2,100 responses. People telling me what happens once a sociopath reaches the age of 50. 93% say that the sociopath is just as bad or worse after the age of 50 as they were when they were younger. So, if you look at like the literature or some scientific or psychiatric textbooks, they say that, antisocial personality disorder or psychopathy burn out starting about the age of 40. Totally wrong. Absolutely, totally wrong. This person will not get any better. If he's in prison, well, that sounds like it's a very good time to make a clean break. They won't get better. They do not get better. They do not change. I mean, I spoke with someone whose mother was disordered, and this woman was on her deathbed, and she still would not change. She was the same mean person that she always was. They're not going to change. So if you're involved with somebody and you're kind of hoping that, maybe they'll like settle down or grow out of it or something like that, it's not going to happen. Don't waste your life. Don't waste your time. Get rid of the person. Okay. Sarah says, how do you deal with a sociopath once you realize what they are? For example, I am an attorney and I come across a lot of sociopath opponents. I can't just not deal with them. So what do I do? Yeah, there's an awful lot of sociopathic attorneys out there. So, and often what happens in court cases is that sociopathic clients tend to find sociopathic attorneys, and then they tag team the opposing party. It's a nightmare. I would say that in those situations, I mean, you have to be on top of your game at all times and recognize that even though the other person is an attorney, they're still into power and control. They still think that they can get away with anything. They still will bend and break and subvert the rules. They will still lie in court. Their client will lie in court. So you need to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do as far as following any court rules, because they'll push everything. And the thing with sociopaths is that you can't appease them. I mean, certainly do not attempt or recommend that your client engage in mediation, with a sociopathic attorney. Of course, it would be the other party that the mediator is. But anyhow, you just got to be at the top of your game and know what you're dealing with and be prepared to play hardball. I mean, you can't appease these people. You can't let them slide. You have to just make sure that you can enforce whatever it is that you're supposed to do. And, recognize that the attorney wants to pull things over on you as much as he wants to pull things over on your client. So you just really need to educate yourself about this and know what you can do. And the other thing to be aware of is that a lot of times they may try to influence the judge. Maybe they could be paying off the judge. I mean, it happens. So you need to be aware that there could be just all kinds of things going on that you need to keep your eyes open for. Okay, so Sharon says, should we take them seriously when they threaten your life, or is it all just hot air? Yeah, you should take it seriously, especially if you have seen this person be violent before. Now, the best predictor of violence is previous violence. And this could be any kind of violence, not necessarily violence directed towards you. If you've seen the person be violent towards anybody else, towards animals, towards furniture or other property, lots of sociopaths punch holes in the wall, usually right by your head. So if you see any indications that the person is violent, then absolutely take it seriously, especially if they have weapons. If they have weapons, definitely take it seriously. Yeah, I mean, you definitely need to be cautious about this. And the thing is that if anyone is threatening violence, you don't want to be in that situation anyway. I mean, even the threat of violence is not worth it. It does affect you. It affects you psychologically. It's very damaging. It's very damaging emotionally. So, if you're not out of that situation, definitely do get out of the situation. And if it's a situation where you're divorced and this person is threatening you or something like that, you may need to get or at least advise the police. Sometimes restraining orders are not effective. In fact, the book that I mentioned earlier, The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker, he typically recommends that people do not get restraining orders because essentially what happens is it gives the sociopath something to fight about. And remember, sociopaths want to win. And, if they have to go to court with a restraining order, it keeps you involved with them longer. And then, sometimes it's like waving a red flag in front of a bull. It just makes it so that they want to attack even more. So you definitely want to engage in no contact. Take it seriously, evaluate the situation. If this person has ever choked you, recognize that is often a predecessor of even worse violence. So you definitely do not want to be in that situation. Okay, what else do we have? All right, CC asked, if it's genetic, does that mean that they can't help it? To a certain extent, yes, but they can't help the fact that they have the disorder, but they can control their behavior. Okay? So, plenty of sociopaths, for example, can manage to drive on the right side of the road. They're not going to drive on the wrong side of the road, because they're out of control. They can follow, traffic rules. And, they know to pay for something when they go to a restaurant. So sociopaths are not out of control. They are not delusional. They are not hearing voices. They are not psychotic. So they do have control over their behavior. And that means that they can prevent themselves from doing things that they may want to do. And of course, if you've ever been involved with someone romantically, you know this to be true, because in the beginning, when they were showering you with attention and affection and, being so nice and lovey-dovey and doing things for you, they were doing all the right social behaviors. So they absolutely know how to manage their own behavior when they want to. Then there are times when they decide that, they can't be bothered with that anymore, or they figure they've got you under control or whatever, and then they start getting abusive. But they can absolutely control their own behavior. In fact, that's why psychopathy or antisocial personality disorder is not an excuse in a court of law. They can't plead insanity because they're a psychopath. They have the ability to control their behavior. They know exactly what's going on. They know exactly what they're doing. So they don't have an excuse, really, except for the fact that they're just, feel entitled to do whatever they want. Okay. Rhonda, this is pretty scary. My daughter threatened to kill me on Mother's Day. She is 32. Her dad was a psychopath. He passed away, and I am no contact. She is actually in jail right now. She's been in prison like her dad was. Yeah. Maintain no contact. She gets out of jail. She may reach out to you again. That's the best thing you can do, is just maintain no contact. And if necessary, if you're have the ability to move, or something like that, might not be a bad idea. Okay, let's see. All right, that appears to be the end of the questions for tonight. So thank you, everybody, for joining me here at Love Fraud Live. And we'll see you next Tuesday, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Until then, stay safe and continue to learn about love fraud and sociopaths so that you can protect yourself. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.